This is a legal proceeding, just as if you guys were all here and present in the courtroom. Mr. El Chalet or Ms. Margosian, any questions for myself or your attorneys regarding that this in fact is a legal proceeding today?
No, not from me.
All right. All right. And we're here today on plaintiff's request to modify the parenting time to supervised due to abuse, neglect, and dangerous conditions. Guys, that's the title of the motion. And counsel, you're welcome to proceed with plaintiff's motion.
Thank you. Just to give the court a little background, the parties do share custody of their son. There was a consent judgment in this matter a few months back. Since the entry of this consent order, there's been a significant change of circumstances, including mother has not exercised any of her parenting time with the minor child. On or about July 24th, 2023, the mother contacted the child regarding establishing a relationship with Mr. Jacob Broadus, despite the consent specifically indicating that no contact or involvement shall occur between the two. That is between Jacob Broadus and the child and the minor child. During that same conversation, mother berated and called the minor child racial slurs. My client filed a police report with Sterling Heights Police Department. Another incident on July 29th, 2023, the boyfriend, again, Jacob Broadus, was arrested for domestic violence and unlawfully driving away. The trial is currently scheduled in that matter. At the time of that motion, it was actually scheduled for today, October 2nd. Most recently, the mother was arrested for attempting to enter my client's home without permission. I have the case number in my motion. Detectives from the Sterling Heights Police Department have informed my client that the defendant is in the process of being charged criminally in that matter. Further, my client, defendant mother has an exhaustive history of violence in her own home, leading to multiple CPS and criminal cases, which detailed abuse and neglectful behavior, and resulted in the following recommendations. CPS advised my client to keep the child at his home due to the overwhelming safety concerns. The defendant mother's boyfriend, Jacob Broadus, was on tether in March with alcohol monitoring and charged with child abuse. In March 2023, Mr. Broadus had flipped the mattress over, which resulted in the minor child while the child was on the mattress, which resulted in the minor child hitting his head on the wall. The mother was also has a history of mental health ailments, has been hospitalized for those issues numerous times during the child's parenting time. The CPS has previously removed the minor child from defendant's care and placed in my client's care. CPS in the past has urged my client to seek immediate emergency relief from this court for the minor child's safety and well-being. The child currently lives with my client in a safe home with his parents in Utica, which is located within the gated community and is only several miles from my client or from the defendant mother's apartment. Further, the child has his own bed to sleep in at the plaintiff's at my client's home, and the child is extremely close to not only my client but his paternal grandparents. Finally, my client is gainfully employed as a service manager at an area auto repair center and has always maintained an extremely close bond with his son. Clearly, my client is able and willing to parent for the child and contribute meaningfully to the child's health, safety, and well-being, as outlined. As I've outlined, this court, again, the capacity and disposition of the parties and the court, according to the Child Custody Act, which provides that custody and parenting time shall be granted in accordance with the best interests of the children. The court should look at the 12 best interest factors. And I think based on the information provided and the consistent safety concerns with mother and the fact that she's continued to engage in a relationship with Jacob Brodus, who there's a consent order that the child not be in his presence. And she's encouraged this, subsequent to that, she's encouraged the child to essentially make amends with Mr. Brodus.
Okay. Well, let me ask this. In your motion, you indicate that she's currently charged with DV against Mr. El Chalet and the minor child. Is that in regards to this incident, this alleged breaking and entering incident, or is that a different occurrence?
That's relating to that incident. She's currently, they are in the process of investigating it. They have not closed the matter and have not, are in the process.
So there's no pending DV charges against defendant regarding Mr. El Chalet or the child. There's an investigation, but there's no child.
Correct.
She hasn't been charged, arraigned, or anything like that.
Not at this time that I'm aware of.
Okay. All right. And Mr. El Chalet, I'm going to ask you a couple of questions, sir. Is what you're about to say the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Yes or no?
Yes, Your Honor.
So tell me about this incident in July where your attorney alleges she's getting charged with breaking, entering DV against you and your son.
So, Your Honor, she came, first she started texting me, crazy messages. It's all on app close. And I told her, I said, hey, our son is scared to be with you. He doesn't want to go to you. He talked to you. He told you he wants nothing to do with you. He's scared because you keep telling him Jacob will be around you. You need to talk to Jacob. Also, her mother and her husband assaulted my son. There was an investigation launched in Brandon Township. She came over. I told her, do not come to our premises, private property. You're not welcome over. If you have any issues, go to the front of the court. At the time, she kept coming over. Before that, she would come over and see our son for 2-3 hours. She would sit with us. And when she tells our son, let's go, he's scared of it for his life. He tells her, I'm not going with you. I'm not going anywhere. I'm staying here. I don't want to go with you. Going forward, I told her, hey, I filed an emergency. You keep pushing Jacob on our son. This guy is a criminal. He's a threat to our son. And obviously, our son does not want to be around him. And I'm filing a motion. She got irate. She sent me a couple.
So tell me. Oh, okay. And tell me how she got to your house and what happened.
So she got irate, sir, Your Honor, and she sent me 2 pictures of my garage. And she said, I'm here. I want to get my son. My son called her. He said, I'm not going with you. I'll go with you. I'll call the cops. So she went and called the cops. The cops told her it's a friend of the court matter. Have a nice day. The next day at 5:03, all I heard was my door, like a big boom. My mother was sitting in the kitchen floor. She was grinding meat. And Ashley, I can hear her screaming. I turned on my camera immediately on my phone, video and audio. And I told her, hey, what are you doing here? I told you you're not welcome here. Get out of our house. And she started screaming. And she went to my son. She started grabbing him, telling him, let's go. He told her, I'm not going with you. Started pushing him around, grabbed him, picked him up, started yanking at him. He still refused to go with her. And then she pushed me, ran into my son's bedroom, started grabbing his backpacks. And then she came back to me and my son. She said, let's go, let's go. My son telling her, no, I'm not going with you. And then she screamed at him, told him, why did you file a police report on my mother? Why did you file a police report on my mother? And then my son told her, you know, she hit me, her and her husband. And then she said, let's go. And my son told her, I'm not going with you. And it's all on video and audio, Your Honor. The police officer
how did she end up in the house? She just opened the front door and came in?
No,
or
the front
or you
door
let her
had
in?
we have a garage door. The garage was open, and then you have that door that leads into the home. That door,
Right.
we always lock it because my father, he has breathing issues and he has oxygen tanks. So we leave that screen door locked. And then me and my mom would go out shopping or something, but we'll leave that door open with the window door open so airflow can go through the house.
Okay. All right.
So she went right through that door.
So she ripped through the locked screen door and then the other door was open. Is what you're alleging.
Yep. So that door, yeah, the window.
She came through the open garage, went through the door, did not ask to come into the house. She just came in. And that's how she started yelling at you guys?
Correct. And it's all on video and audio, Your Honor. It's 6 minutes long.
When do you allege that she did something abusive to you?
At that incident, she kept pushing me and kept hitting my hand away and striking at me. Then the cops came. I called for the cops. She said, call them. I don't care. The cops came. They were on body cam. They said, we're going to arrest her. And I showed them the video. When they seen the video, the officer said, Officer Dakota said, we're on our way to arrest her. We made contact with her. Dispatch made contact with her, and then they made contact with the officers in my home. When they were on their way to go arrest her, I wrote my statement, and that was the end of that.
Okay.
And
so let me ask this: have you guys had several incidents regarding police? So do they know you guys?
They know her more than me. She calls them as a tool. She has weaponized the police department for welfare checks, excessive welfare checks. The police department. What have they done to you that they're weaponized? What have they done adversely to you that's unjust? They haven't done anything to me. She would call them all the time and do a welfare call. After that, the Captain Hopper, she got aggravated with all these welfare calls. She told me that they will not be out to my parents' home and harass us anymore, and they have not been out yet. Furthermore,
so just a sec. So you live with your mom and dad?
Correct. So
did she ever live there? Was that your residence when you guys were together? No,
we were only together 8.5 years ago for like maybe 6 months.
Okay, and your son is currently 8, and your son is 8.
He's turning 9. He's turning 9.
And your May 2023 order is week on, week off. Is that correct?
Correct. Following that, Your Honor,
okay, go ahead.
I filed for a PPO. Judge Rancilio granted it the following day and listed her as a threat to my child and me as a threat as well, and her as a threat to me. And she got served with the PPO, and I haven't heard from her then.
So you're alleging that both she's abusive and your son's grandparents are abusive. Her parents are abusive as well.
Correct. My son notified me of these incidents, and these incidents were taken to Detective Nabazny.
So what do you allege? So how do you allege his grandparents abused him?
My son notified me that Ashley Margosian's Ashley Margosian's mother, my son's grandmother. My son was playing baseball in the backyard. He accidentally threw the baseball at his great grandfather's head, and her husband, known to have drinking issues, took my son in the kitchen with the grandma. The grandma held my son down while her husband was striking my son on his back and buttocks area. So when my son told me about this, I immediately text Regina and I said, "In what God-given earth do you have the right to lay hands on my son?" Following that, Ashley, my son's mother, got irritated, called her mother and told her, "You guys have no rights laying hands on our son." And the mother text me back saying, call it what you want to call it. Go file a police
Okay,
report.
so when do you allege that occurred?
Well, we already took care of that with the care visit. My son alleged that took place about a year ago. So the care visit took place.
Okay, so you're talking, and when did you, this was well before the May 2023 order, correct?
Correct.
You already knew about that in May of 2023 when you did the consent order for joint legal and physical.
No, I didn't know about that. That was going forward.
You just found out about it?
Going forward, my son let me know about that when we were driving from McDonald's. He just opened up and decided to tell me.
Okay, so it sounds like all the families are involved in your guys' dynamic, extended, at least grandparents. Would that be a correct statement?
More my grandparents than her mom, and because her new husband doesn't want to get involved with her mom doesn't want nothing to do with her. She's left her homeless on many occasions. When I left her, she left her in shelters. My son
isn't this the grandparent you just said assisted in abusing your son?
Correct. She's left her in shelter. She's never been there for her as far as she wanted to.
So you're saying she's okay. I heard. Okay.
She wants to adopt her daughter from her.
Okay. Well, the woman who abused your son wanted to adopt your son.
No, not my son. Her daughter Hannah. She presented documents to her to adopt her.
All right. Okay.
And actually told me about it, and I told her to decline that option.
Okay.
Furthermore,
so that we're good. Ms. Khalil, your response to everything?
Thank you, Your Honor. The little bit of background I want the court to know is I have known this family back when this divorce was filed. This was back when I worked at Legal Aid. This is back in 2016. There couldn't be a family that the police department and Child Protective Services knows more than this entire family, including maternal and paternal grandparents. There's just an extensive, long history of abuse between. In this case, there have been removals from mom, there have been removals from dad, and then ultimately dad went to prison. He spent 4 years in prison, and I don't know
for what?
He went to prison because he threatened Judge Biernat Sr. at the time and Judge Kathy George at the time, who had both presided over the divorce proceedings for the parties in this case. Mr. Al-Shalay has absconded with the child. I
don't mean to do this, but I'm gonna.
No, this is my time to talk. I'm gonna
object that we're talking about the change of circumstances that has occurred since the last.
But guys, stop. But Mr. Perlman, you talked about times before May of 2023 and a history of her history. So I'm going to allow it. So guys, it's my first time meeting you. This just got reassigned. I'm the new rep. So I'm going to allow counsels to give me background on this case to assist me in deciding who the credibility or where this whole situation got here. So go ahead, Ms. Khalil, you can continue.
There have been, pre-divorce judgment, there were ex parte orders, multiple ex parte orders entered because Mr. Al-Shalay would repeatedly take off with the child. And my first question before the court would be, I want to know where the child is right now. I don't care that he says he's living in a gated community in Utica. My client hasn't seen her child, for which there's a court order that allows her to see the child. And he doesn't get to make that decision to stop mom from seeing that child. He has zero authority. And when he doesn't allow mom to see the child, he's in direct violation of the child's best interest. I would also tell the court, my client's mother is a detective I believe she's with the Wayne County Sheriff's Office. She might be partly retired. She has been heavily involved in this child's life. She has helped both of these parents when there have been these deep disagreements. She knows this child just as much as the parents do.
So you don't think she participated in paddling or striking the child because she thought he threw a ball at his great grandpa? Would it be the great grandpa's?
Correct.
That could have hit him. Is that who we're talking about? Okay.
Correct.
It's just not believable. And I would also say that the paternal grandparents have been heavily involved because both sets of grandparents have participated in supervising this child when it was ordered by the court or somehow to help work through whatever the issue was at the time. So my client, just as Mr. Chalet would, my client has a very long history with her in-laws, and Mr. El Chalet has a very long history with his in-laws, specifically Regina, the maternal grandmother. And, you know, he's making these allegations today that Regina makes racial slurs or whatever. Muhammad's no saint, okay? He comes to this court with the most uncleanest of hands.
But let me ask this, counsel, for argument's purposes. What if he's learned his lesson and she hasn't? For argument's purposes, what if all of this court and everything has gotten his attention, he's adjusted how he acts and behaves, but she's still acting inappropriately? What if that's the scenario?
I guess my response
is Ms. Margosian, does she deny these incidents in July?
I think I gave the court,
said, don't let her near the child, and does she deny all of this?
She hasn't, since the Mr. Brodius has been charged, she's not had contact with him except like they've separated. They're not living in the same household. I attached an exhibit. So this is how Mr. El Chalet operates. He will call the police, get a police report, file something. The only thing he has right now is a PPO, which my client has contested and has a hearing on. There's no criminal charges pending against Ms. Margosian, which is why
Is it possible that they could be? He's saying she's under investigation currently by a detective.
I gave the court the email from the detective. I mean, that's all I can give the court, which says that they're not.
So let me ask this, and I don't mean to interrupt your flow of your argument, but so you say the last time she saw Mr. Brodus was July, which would infer she was back with him and not exercising parenting time in lieu of spending time with her boyfriend, who then got in trouble again and ends up getting picked up in July, which is when all this happened. Is that what happened?
No, with the July incident, I'm saying she had one contact after the alleged incident of her allegation of home invasion, because she needed help for someone to watch the child she has with him. That was the only reason why. When this court ordered that Ashley not have contact, not that their child, Maher, not have any contact with Mr. Brodius, Ashley complied with that order. She complied with that order. But her own situation, she recognizes the issues she had with Mr. Brodius, and knowing what's going on between them two have separated. They're not living in the same household, and they have separated.
When did they separate?
And I actually, do you know the exact date of that? Because she was
and ma'am, I'm going to swear you in just like it did Mr. Ashley. Ms. Bargosian, is what you're about to say the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Yes or no?
Yes.
So when's the last time you were with Mr. Brodius? When did you split up for good? The last time? Was it July?
July. Because
okay, yeah. So which means that your order was entered in May for week on, week off, that he's to have no contact with your child, but you stayed with him, correct?
We have 2 kids together. We have a 1.5-year-old and an 8-month. So we do co-parent and we do see each other. We have seen each other in the past, but due to recent events, especially what happened in July, he has a drinking problem that he refuses to get under.
Okay. And is the July incident resulted in a second DV against him? And did it involve you as a victim?
The July incident was him coming over to see the kids that we have together, and he was He had came over after he was drinking. I asked him.
Okay, but what? How did he catch a domestic violence charge? Drinking does not get you a DV charge.
It was over text that he sent me. He didn't put his hands on me. If I were to,
what did he say? What did he say?
Not so nice things.
So tell me what he said. He caught a charge for it, and he's on a DV second. He might be going to prison. Who knows? Or to jail for several months. So what did he say that was so bad that got him a second DV charge and potentially, I don't know if he's on probation or probation violation?
basically threatened to knock my back door in because he was claiming that I was withholding him from the kids.
And did he threaten to hurt you in any way in those texts?
No.
So, Mr. Echelet, you claim that CPS said, don't let her see. When did you claim you had contact with them where they said, right now first? And guys, by the way, CPS can tell you to do stuff that may not be incongruent with your current court orders, and that can cause some problems if they're not going to initiate action. When do you allege CPS told you, right now, don't let her see your son?
Your Honor, it was months back. They told me, if you believe your son's well-being is in jeopardy, do what's right. And
okay, so this was not around the July incident. You're saying before
Correct.
that?
Correct.
Before your May 2023 consent order? For week on, week off?
Week on, week off. And then, no, when that was done, when she started texting my son and calling her and Jacob, and I called her, my son called me. He said, Bubba, they keep calling me. She wants me to talk to Jacob. I called the mother. I said, hey, why do you keep,
Yeah,
what are you doing?
what month, what part of the year did CPS encourage you not to allow? You're saying they said, if you think your child's at risk, don't violate your parenting time order. Don't let her have parenting. But when was that? Before May? Was it January, February, March? When was that?
May, June.
Before May.
So, sir, what did you go to jail for? What did you go to prison for?
I was disagreeing with the courts at the time. The mom was prostituting. I kept telling my attorneys I had.
That's not what. So, you must have made threats? What was your charge that you pled to or got convicted of? What was the charge that got you in?
It was a text. It was an email. I sent an email to the.
I know, but there's a charge. You get arraigned on a charge. You get convicted on a charge. You go to jail on a charge.
Yep. It was a false report, threat of terrorism through Eric Smith's office.
Okay. And how long ago were you released on that?
About almost 3 years ago now.
Okay. So 3 years ago. So well before. And guys, why we keep talking about May 2023, realize when you guys do a consent order, the view of the court of the law is that takes into consideration everything that has happened between the two of you up until the date of that order. So prior to May 2023, everything we're talking about, you guys knew about, and it was your history prior to May of 2023. So when we talk about now, we talk about what has happened since May of 2023, the change of circumstances. So I appreciate both counsels laying the foundation because I've never met you guys before, and I need to know your history to help me formulate what I think should be done now. So we're saying since May of 2023, with all this stuff you're talking about, him going to prison, all this stuff, you guys agreed to week on, week off. Now you're saying there's this July incident where she came in your house, and that's the primary reason, the primary change of circumstance for this motion today. Am I hearing that correct, Mr. Perlman? And her alleged staying in contact with her boyfriend, Mr. Brodius.
Correct.
Those are the two main issues, right?
Correct.
Okay. So, Ms. Margozzi, do you want to tell me about, and your counsel may interject here if I don't know what you said that you don't think there's any investigation anymore. Did you barge into his house and just go inside the house?
Actually, I was just there probably like 2 weeks before that because his dad has made it so hard for him to see. For me to pick up my son. No.
But let me ask this. I'm going to interject. It's a straight question. Did you barge through the garage, open the door of a house that you're not welcome at, go inside, and start having a disagreement with the people in the house?
Your Honor, I think I would at least like to clarify, she has a history with this family that she goes there. She's been invited over there for meals. So if she went there because Muhammad is withholding the child from her and she goes to try to work with his parents to try to get the child, I don't think that she's done anything wrong.
You can't just walk into people's houses. Well, but guys, you can't just walk into someone's house and start yelling at them.
I didn't.
Can't you self-help? You got to get so what happened that day?
Your Honor, I wasn't hostile at all. I've had a long-standing, out of the entire dynamic with Muhammad, with his parents, I love my mother-in-law. I am divorced, but she's always, I mean, she came to my home after I gave birth to my son 2 years ago and was holding him. When I went there, I didn't even see him. For one, we had a school event that Mohammed stood me up for. I haven't seen Meher in months, unless I go there to see him. He already knew that there was a school event. This didn't happen out of the blue. This was Monday, August 28th. He was supposed to start school August 29th. We had talked all day about this school event. We planned it weeks before. It was the school walkthrough to see his friends, see his classroom, meet his teacher. He was supposed to be there at 4:30. I texted him hours ago. I said, before I pack my 3 kids in the car, can you please let me know if you were going to be there at 4:30? Told me yes. Then when I was driving, ended up telling me, by the way, we already went. The event started at 4:30. I said, what do you mean you already
but are we talking August now? Did we go
This
from
happened-
the July incident at his house to August? Something else?
No, this happened August 28th. The incident where first of all, I was not arrested. Second of all, it's been completely dismissed. I know this because one, I'm a registered nurse. I graduated 2 years ago. If I was to be charged with breaking and entering or assault of any kind, that severely impacts my career. It impacts my record. I don't have.
But take a pause, because you both tend to go into these directions when right now I'm focused on July, when he claimed you barged into the house, tried to grab your son, was striking him, pushing him. So you're saying his July 24th date is not the right date when this police report was made?
100%.
What is the proper date?
August 28th.
So you say it was a total month later?
It was August 28th.
From when he alleged?
The day that I went to try to get my son and I physically picked my child up, I said, you're coming with me, was August 28th. He called the police, his father. The police came to my house. I did not get arrested. I have been since in contact with the detective on this case, and they have said they sent it to the prosecutor's office and they would let me know if a warrant was going to be authorized for this.
Okay.
I have since been in contact with the detective, and the detective told me personally, he left me a voicemail and he said the case has not been authorized by the prosecutor's office. It's been 100% dismissed. There's no case.
Okay, so guys, stop. Just as an aside, dismissed does not mean before there's a charge, nothing can get dismissed. You're claiming that they're closing the investigation and the prosecutor's not going to bring charges, but they did forward a request for a warrant against you. They clearly did.
At the time, but it's been completely dropped. Like there's no investigation.
How do you know that you're saying that the detective told you the prosecutors are not picking up the issue and not going to press charges? That's what you're claiming?
Yes.
And counsel, you say that's not true?
My understanding is that there were no formal charges brought against Miss Margosian. Like I looked her up, I looked her name up in the Sterling Heights District Court. She was never formally charged with anything. And so she, like she told the court, she's been contacting the detective.
So, sir, when's the last time, or ma'am, when's the last time you talked to the detective on the case that was investigating the case?
It was Detective Eric Job, and he left me a personal voicemail, and then I called him back. He sent me an email, and I also attached the email. I gave it to Sima. I can tell you exactly the day.
Oh, so let me ask this. So, Mr. El Chalet, she's saying this is not a July incident. No. This is an August incident, a month later.
August.
Your Honor, July was when she violated the court order and tried to have Jacob make contact with Meher. August is where she barged in. I have it all on video and audio.
Okay.
And Detective Job called me and emailed me telling me he was not happy with the prosecutor's decision and he appealed it, and that it's a back open investigation. And I have the email. I already forwarded to my attorney yesterday.
Okay, so but they did tell you that the prosecutors decided not to pick up the case. So correct, to say,
but he appealed it. He said, when did he tell you? When did he tell you that? You can ask my attorney. I forwarded him the email yesterday. He has the date if you want the accurate date.
Okay. So guys, I will say my understanding was this was the July, but you've now indicated that the July was the alleged texting and trying to encourage contact between your son and her boyfriend. And now this barging into the house was August.
Yes, Your Honor, at 5:03 p.m.
All right. And ma'am, you say you were invited. How did you end up in the house?
I was not invited,
Okay.
but I have been, that's almost been like a second home for me. So if I were to go there, the only,
Okay.
and when I can tell you that when I got to the house, the garage door was open. I seen my ex-mother-in-law in the kitchen cooking. I went to the door, I opened the door, I said, hi, Tita. I said, where, is Mayor here? And she goes, no. And she was cooking. And I said, do you know, like, what's going on? Like, there was a school event today. His dad didn't bring him. I didn't see his dad's car, so I didn't even think my son was there. I didn't think his dad was there. And I was like, can we talk?
Okay. Had you been seeing your son prior to this August incident? Had you been seeing him, or you had no parenting time since July?
No parenting time of my own. Only time I was able to see him is if I went to their house.
How many between times in July and August in a month did you go over there?
From the new consent order from May to now, about 4 times.
Okay, 4 times. And for how long?
I was there all day, like all day.
And was Mr. El Chalet there or no?
Yep, all the time, every time.
And you guys were all hanging out together as a family?
Yep.
Do you guys ever talk about reconciliation?
No.
Okay, I'm just trying to figure out your dynamic here. I don't assume that. I just wanted to know.
That
Your
I
Honor,
have.
No, she's talking right now. You
Okay.
can talk in a minute.
I have 305 pages of text communication going back from January. I actually gave the whole binder. I printed them all off, gave them to Sima. I have texts of him saying, let's go get massages together. 3 months ago, I have texts saying, come over, I'll give you $100 for your car. He works as a car service technician. So he said, I'm your person, like anytime you need car repairs. I have a text message going back from the end of July asking me to move with him.
Okay. So let me ask this. Counsel and Ms. Khalil, either counsel is always welcome to interject as I'm asking questions here, obviously. Were your children, and ma'am, you have other children other than your child with Mr. El Chalet?
Yes.
And how many other children?
I have 3.
3 other children or 3 total with your child, Mr. El Chalet?
I have 3 other children. I have 4 children.
What are their ages?
My daughter, she's 6. My Benjamin, my son, is 1.5 years. And then my daughter, she's 8.5 months old. 9 months. She's 9.
Okay. All right. And the 2 youngest are with Mr. Brodius?
Yes.
And what is your arrangement with your 6-year-old?
I'm a single parent. I've always been a single parent with her.
So you have full custody of all your children, other children?
Yes.
Okay. And counsel indicated that you guys have both had intervention and removal of children by CPS. Is that true? Both of you?
That was pre-judgment. So in pre-judgment, they both experienced a removal. The children were placed with the paternal grandparents, and eventually.
Why was that? Was that
because
issues?
there was horrible domestic violence. And the one that I am going to highlight, because it's going to go to the pattern of conduct of Mr. Alshalay. There was an instance where these 2 were together, and CPS had, placed the child with him, but knowing that his family was there, but these 2 were together. And he told her, Miss Margosian, to call CPS and make a threat on the child's life. And then I'll get the child, and then we'll both take off. And I say that to the court, and it's important because that's what's happening again, where he is alleging that my client is reaching out to the child by way of text messaging and saying, oh, talk to Mr. Brodius, talk to Mr. Brodius. If my client
is that true?
No, it's not true. That my client would not do that. He is the one that gets, because at that time, I don't know if he still or his family still works.
So what kind of domestic violence do you allege was going on between them? If I'm going over histrionics and stuff, but it's important for me to try to figure out what to do to try to diffuse the dynamic and get you guys forward at some point to be respectful and in healthy relationships, not abusive relationships, and not have interaction with the law, the courts, and CPS. So Ms. Margosian, do you want to tell me what you allege was going on between you two in the past?
He was horrible. I don't
Well,
I don't
that doesn't, I don't know what that means. You have to tell me.
I mean, like punching me in the face. I don't even.
Was there any charges was he ever charged with anything against you?
The last,
What?
I was at Turning Point. I left so many times.
Okay.
With him.
Okay.
The very last one. The very last one.
When was that? When was that? When was the DV conviction? Mr. You can tell me too.
2016 or 17?
2016, Your Honor. It was for verbal communication. There was never any assault. There was never any assault charges.
Okay.
It was a verbal. The detective told me that if you text, it's still domestic violence if you text it. So I never laid a hand on her. She's when I left her mother left her in homeless shelters, Your Honor. She went and met a guy in a homeless shelter.
So this is her mother. This is her mother, the detective.
Correct. She left her at many warming centers, many homeless shelters.
Why do you think she has a problem? Why do you let she has a problem with her mom?
They don't get along.
The detective.
Yeah, we do.
They do
So
not get along.
Ms. Margosian, do you want to tell me, did your mom ever leave you homeless or out of the house?
Your Honor, I just want to hold on, Ashley. I just want to premise this with this. Muhammad not only terrorizes Miss Margosian, but he does the same stuff with her family members to isolate her. And so,
how does he convince a detective that her daughter is a horrible person? And now he's saying the detective abused his son too. And guys, I'm going to make a few points. We're going to get there in a moment.
And if I may, I mean, I understand the court needs a background, but there's in our motion we've attached the text message where mother's trying to persuade her son to speak to Jake again after this order was already entered in July, saying that you could work it out with him.
Okay, all right. So Ms. Margosian, you want to respond to allegations? Is that text real, not real? What are those texts attached to the motion? Are those from you or your son?
Those are from me because it's been. I actually just want to. I know I'm being rude, but the abuse that I went through with his father is disrespectful right now for him to sit there and say he never put a hand on me. This has to do, I've already healed from all of that. Okay. And I shouldn't have to rehash it. So I will say this matter is about my son. How dare you?
Well,
I can't.
Okay,
I can't go back.
But ma'am, let me make a point. People tend to repeat their mistakes. And if you're alleging Mr. El Chalet was abusive, it seems like you went from one abusive man to the other. I don't say that as criticism. I don't say that to make you feel bad, but you have to seek counseling or whatever you need because you are getting involved with abusive men. And for yourself, you don't deserve that. You don't deserve it from Mr. El Chalet. If that happened in the past, you don't deserve it from Mr. Brodius. You don't deserve it from anybody, but patterns tend to be repeated. And so for yourself, and just as an aside, and this is not a flattering for Mr. El Chalet, people tend to make these habits. So she's been involved, she's saying, with two abusive men. That is now affected because now the second guy you're involved with is affecting potentially your parenting time. And Mr. El Chalet, all I know is you went to prison for a few years for domestic terrorism. So I know you got a temper on you. And she's alleging you had a DV charge that you pled to or got convicted in 2016. Guys, you can't change your criminal records. I don't want to hear debates that you guys are. And then guess what, guys? You guys talk about getting back together. And this dysfunction and stuff goes on because one day you hate each other. He's an abuser. She's an abuser. She's with an abusive guy. And then you're talking about leaving and going away together and getting back together. And she's hanging out at your house. And I can always hope that you stabilize your relationship for the benefit of your child. But you guys have a very dysfunctional dynamic going on. And guys, you guys at some point this is what would be my unsolicited advice. One, don't consider getting back together. Go forward saying, we are not going to be together. Ma'am, your current boyfriend, I hope you are done with him. I know he's the parent of your children, but this is not a good guy. This is bad news. and I know you depend probably on him for financial support, and that tends to tie people together, but he's not worth it. You guys need to stabilize your relationships, move forward and say, we need to communicate with each other at the minimum right now, only about emergencies, what's essential for your child, school, otherwise, not get into history, not get into everything else, and maintain yourself. So guys, guess what? You guys might be guilty of bad things, but if one person gets their act together, pardon my French, and the other one doesn't, then guess what? Then that's where you're at now. So the question is, where are you at now? So ma'am, do you think your son is afraid to be with you? Why? Or do you think Mr. El Chalet is just making this all up? What's your living situation, and what's your take on that?
The relationship with Jacob and I has not been the most stable. So I respect my son when he says he doesn't want, there has been a lot of, physical abuse, no. Verbal, like fighting about him drinking, asking him to leave, the arguing about what, financial issues and stuff like that. There was a lot of stress since I gave birth to my son 2 years ago. A lot of just, that's not healthy for my kids. So when my son says he doesn't want to be here with me, with Jacob in the house, I agree, which is why. So there was a child abuse charge that his dad filed against Jacob in March. That was denied. It didn't go anywhere. The prosecutor's office took like 2 months to make their determination, but they dropped the case. CPS
and that was against
also,
who? And that was against who?
Jacob. His dad.
Okay. So his father called the police and he got investigated for abusing his dad?
No, Mohammed filed a police report against Jacob Broadus, alleging that Jacob abused Mahar in my house.
Okay, abused your son.
Yes, our son.
Okay, I got you. And that was investigated, and no charges happened.
They dismissed it. The police dismissed it. However, when his father and I, when this consent order, and his attorney can testify to this too, I personally emailed his attorney in May when I was in the car with Mohammed. I was in Mohammed's vehicle in May. He called me and said, hey, what are you doing? I met him up. We sat together, and me and Mohammed drafted a motion together that we wanted, that we could agree on. We agreed to the 1 week on, 1 week off, and his attorney can testify because I emailed his attorney that day.
Okay, so stop. But was that based on an agreement between you and Mr. El Chalet that your boyfriend was out of the picture? But he wasn't. You stayed together, and he got in trouble in July. Right?
Yes.
I'm just making a point. I'm not demonizing you. The point I'm making is you sat down with Mr. El Chalet, you made an agreement, week on, week off. Mr. Brodius wouldn't be around, but then he came back around. And then Mr. El Chalet got unhappy, rightfully so.
However,
now, does that mean you should stop? Does that mean you should call cops and get in these fights? But you guys are at a point, you guys got to be smart and be like, you know what, before you roll into a house or this, he's going to call the cops. You guys call cops, you guys end up entrenched in this stuff. You're nice one day, you're not the other. So ma'am, what is your current living situation?
Your Honor,
are you in an apartment, in a house? What? Ask my question. Don't digress into other issues. Answer my question.
I have a town.
What is your living situation? And whose name is on it? You, Mr. Brodius, or is it just yours?
Just me.
And are you able to afford it with Mr. Brodius? Does he have a no contact bond with you right now?
Yes, technically but I've already been told by my complex, because of the police coming to my apartment, and Jacob is not allowed here. I will be evicted. He cannot, and Jacob cannot come to ever since he was arrested in July. When he came over to see the kids, he was drunk, and the office has since called me, actually, as of a couple weeks ago, and said that, Ashley, if we see him walking around, if we see him at your house, we will be sending you a 30-day notice. So I cannot have Jacob here. It's not.
Right.
We've been, and I just want to say that I upheld my end when I signed that order, when I agreed to the order in May of Jacob not being here. I wasn't having, even when I agreed, I said, okay, Jacob's not going to be here. He still didn't give me parenting time. He still didn't allow me to go get my car.
Well, but listen, when you lose trust, guys, it's hard to get it back. And you weren't totally honest because he came back around. But so let me ask this. Where do you guys live in a conjunction with each other? What city do each of you live in?
Sterling Heights, Your Honor.
And ma'am, is that where you're at too?
Yes.
So you're in the same school district. Your son doesn't have to switch schools when he's going between your home. Like he's in this school he would have been with no matter what. Correct?
Yes.
Correct, Your Honor. Can I, one thing, Your Honor, can I please?
So let me ask Mr. El Chalet. Well, let me ask this. If Mr. Brodius is gone for good, he's gone. That's the problem, right? Mr. Brodius is the problem.
Correct, Your Honor. She texted me, Your Honor, on App Close. It's an app that the judge Slotowski
I know what it is. I know what it is.
She told me on the text, Your Honor, she said, keep him because I'm not getting rid of Jacob. I can't let him go. I need the help. She said, I'll come and see him. And it's in there, Your Honor.
When did she send you that message? It
was like probably 2 weeks before her and I agreed to the new
so in May. Well, that was pre-order then. I'm going to be blunt.
Yeah,
Stop.
Correct, Your Honor, pre-order.
Yes, correct. Okay. So Miss Margosian, I'm going to be blunt.
But I guess what I would say, Your Honor, is that she still would need the help. They have children together, and her reason for saying that would still apply. She does need the help, and it puts it in a horrible situation. But that is the basis for this motion. She couldn't.
And is there a reason, Mr. Perman, we can't see you anymore? Is there a reason your camera's off?
Your Honor.
So stop, guys. I'm going to make a point because I'm going to make my decision. Ma'am, Mr. Brodius is the problem. You agreed to an order that he can't have contact with him. I believe you probably violated that order. This is a gentleman who is not causing you good things in your life. If you get caught around with him again, it's going to affect your custody and parenting time. I think he's the problem. I'm inclined to reinitiate your parenting time, but if you violate it and the next time you're around Mr. Brodius again, it's going to have an effect on your custody and parenting time. Because then I'm going to make a point to both of you. You lose trust with the court, it's hard to get it back. I don't know how to impart to you. I know there are financial constraints. I primarily, before I came to the court, represented women in abusive situations. I understand there is a big financial component when this person, you have young children and childcare costs a fortune and you need them financially, but you have to separate yourself from this guy. You seem to have a pattern getting involved. And you need to, and I would suggest counseling or whatever, ma'am, because you're telling me you now have been involved with two bad guys. Pardon my French. And Mr. El is saying he's got his stuff together. Mr. El, you're not a saint. You went to prison for threatening judges. You had a past DV, guys. I can go over your histories and say all of this stuff, but you guys have to, at some point in a choice, go to counseling, guys. Go to counseling. Be honest about the dynamic you have and move forward, or you're going to be back in front of me. You're going to deal with law enforcement. You're going to be all over. I don't know what to tell you, man, but you cannot have your child around Mr. Brodius whatsoever. Do you understand that?
Yes.
And should I believe you? Because I'm going to tell you, if I find out your son has been around him, this will not go good the next time you're in court. And counsels are welcome to interject if they have any problem with anything I'm saying.
No, I don't even trust my own kids that we have together to be, because he's an alcoholic and I don't have trust with him at all anymore. So he doesn't even really see the kids that we have.
And I'll be honest, my concern is, as we talked here, you tend to be a little defensive of him. I'm not saying that's evil, but you tend to be a little defensive and minimize his behavior a bit. And it's probably because you have two young children. But whether he's a mean drunk, threatening people, or whatever he's doing, this is not a good guy for you.
No,
I'm going to be blunt. Mr. El Chalet might not be a good guy for you either. But you guys have to get to a point where you can work together, disengage, don't roll into each other's houses where you think you're invited or not. know that this is not a good dynamic between the two of you. I would strongly suggest you guys seek counseling, both of you, or joint counseling with, and I'm inclined, and let me ask this, counsels, what are your thoughts about have these parties go to a couple visits with either Dr. Beckley or someone else in a private capacity to try to stabilize their dynamic? Is that worth it? Not going to do any good? What are your counsel's thoughts?
I don't know that it will do any good. Again, a lot of it's these outside factors that really, I agree with Your Honor. It's these outside factors that really have caused these issues. And I mean, I don't blame my client in that situation. I mean, he did the right thing. He had to do the violation of the order. There's a reason that they agreed to that order, and he filed a motion. But I mean, not to say that therapy isn't good for. I don't think that is. No, I don't think that is necessarily beneficial at this point.
Okay, Ms. Khalil, any thoughts?
Yeah, I would say they should not be in any sort of family counseling. If they want to do individual counseling on their own time, that's fine.
Your Honor, can I say something, please?
Yeah, go ahead.
Can you please speak to my son and let him tell you what he thinks, and you can figure out whatever you want from there, Your Honor.
So guys, we're not allowed to interview children except for custodial preference and custody fights. And this is an extra one. So
the second thing,
we don't interview them to be fact finders between their parents. The only thing the law presents is for us to interview them if we think custody is an issue.
okay, second thing, Your Honor, I was with her for 6 months, divorced her. Second of all, the second guy she brought over was selling drugs out of her apartment at a Section 8 apartment that she lives in still now.
Was that prior to May of 2023?
Correct. The second guy OD'd in her house.
I don't want to hear it.
Oh, okay.
But that was prior to May. That was prior to May of 2023. Again, guys, everything that happened between the two of you prior to the May 2023 order, you took into consideration in doing that agreement.
Your Honor, prior to that, my son came to me when he came to me through this order, the new order. Your Honor, he was huffing and wheezing, and he had severe anxiety. Now my son has no eye twitching issues, nor hard breathing is gone. And ask her about the hard breathing. She could not figure it out. He had extreme anxiety. Now, Your Honor, it's completely gone. And she even realized it.
But let me ask this. If Mr. Brodus is out of the picture for good and not going to be around your son, what is the issue you have with the plaintiff?
Your Honor, her credibility, she lies a lot to me and my son. But do you feel that has she herself been abusive or neglectful to your son? It seems the issue is with her boyfriend. Yes, Your Honor. She has abused my son as far as hitting him with a big metal spoon that CPS knows about, a cooking spoon. It's in the CPS report. CPS report, Your Honor, was withheld from the prosecution of her admitting to Jacob and Jacob admitting to assaulting my son. With the incident, she said they refused to file charges against Jacob.
So it sounds like you just want your son's mom in jail.
No, I don't want her in jail, but she can't keep, she keeps, and then she said she has not contacted Jacob. Your Honor, that's a lie. She calls him all the time. She had notified me from Macomb County.
Well, there's no bar that she can't talk to your son. She can talk to your son.
No, not my son. I'm saying she told you that she doesn't talk to Jacob. That's a lie. Macomb County Jail has a recording. She calls him all. She receives his calls all the time. And she told me prior to a month of this, she says that she receives his phone calls, that he will be living with her. My son told her, I'm scared. I don't want to go there.
Okay.
And
are you still there? Are you still there, Miss Margosian? Why is your camera and your mic off?
I am so sorry.
Are you there?
I am. I have.
It's family court. It's okay. If there's a baby crying, we can handle it. You're not going to get in trouble for your child crying, your baby. So I'll ask one last time, then I'll make my decision. So, ma'am, Mr. El Chalet saying even up to a month ago, you're telling him you're going to be with Mr. Brodus and that's the way it is. And he has to get used to that.
Yep.
Why do you think she told you that, sir? Just so you could then call the cops and get her in trouble?
No.
Or why would she be so honest with you?
She said to me, I got this nursing job that I can't barely work because I have all these kids. I need his help. I needed, because he works roofing sometimes and he brings me a little money here and there. And I told her, and I always have told her it's not healthy. It's not the right thing, man. I'm like, you got to get your act together. You got this nursing degree online. You barely practice your nursing thing. You go see people in hospice or whatever, like old people at homes. Okay. I said, you need to focus on your life and get this guy out the picture. He's just trouble. And she goes to me, well, I need the money. And she doesn't work.
So your argument is that I should not believe her and she'll absolutely have him around your son again when he gets out. That's your argument?
Your Honor, she said she has not contacted him. Your Honor, her contacts with him are through Macomb County Jail phone call system.
I don't care if she contacts him as long as she doesn't have him around your kid.
Yeah, she will have him.
She's got a 1.5 and 8 month old with him. So there's going to be some kind of dialogue, but my concern is him being around your son. My concern is not him or talking to him about his children. My concern is him being around your child. Correct.
Your Honor, this punk called me threatening me, and then following that, Your Honor.
When?
She knows probably about the incident where he throwed my son in the wall while he was sleeping because son didn't want to get...
What year are you talking about?
This year, Your Honor. It was probably in March, Your Honor.
Before, guess what I'm going to say? Before your May 2023 order, when you did joint week on, week off.
No, in July. I'm sorry. In July is when he called and started threatening me. And that's when, after my threatening, he called my son and she called my son and texted my son for my son to take the phone call to talk to this guy. So I had to do the right thing.
All right.
I'm just not going to lose my life.
Okay. Miss Margosian, any comment on all this? And then I'm going to make my decision.
It just keeps going. Like he just keeps. Jacob,
tell me if it's true or not. You're both under oath. Tell me if it's true or not.
Jacob never texted. And in fact, the 3 years that I've been on and off with Jacob, he's never called Mohammed. He's never texted Mohammed. He's never reached out to my son. He's never texted my son. He's never, and actually it's kind of, I understand the truth of what has, the stress and the fighting and the toxicity in my home. But I've received texts from my son saying Jacob threatened to kill me. Jacob threatened. I mean, the list just goes on, and it's really orchestrated by his dad, because I can tell you there's been times where my son has had 3 cell phone numbers. My 3 cell phone numbers.
Okay. All right. And again, and what day do you guys usually use an exchange day when you're exchanging your child?
Sunday.
All right.
Your Honor, if I can ask, his dad has been very cruel, and the entire summer since this May order was adopted said you can come pick up Mayher at 9:00 at night. How is that realistic with 2 babies and a 6-year-old, especially when school starts?
You guys, you're both in Sterling Heights. It's not 9:00 at night. All right. So guys, I'm going to make my decision. I'm done. We've talked for an hour, guys. If you don't, I'm a referee, not a judge. You guys always have 21 days to object to my decision. Objecting to my decision is your right under the law. You do not get in trouble, either one of you, for objecting. I do not get mad, and the Honorable Terry Lynn Dennings doesn't get mad. Just so you know, guys, you guys' case has been reassigned to the Honorable Terry Lynn Dennings. And that was recently done. That's your new judge. At an objection hearing, the judge will either uphold my order or change all or part of it, and her decision as the judge is the final say. So I'm going to indicate that 1, pursuant to the August 31st, 2023 consent order, defendant's
Judge, was it
former
August
boyfriend.
31st? Oh, sorry. Was it August or May?
I'm sorry. I have August. Let's see, maybe it's, oh, I'm sorry, that's when this was filed. You're right, I'm sorry. I am sorry. Thank you for correcting me, counsel. I appreciate that. It was May 17th, May 17th, 2023 order. Defendant's former boyfriend will have, and it's Jason Broaddus, is that correct?
Correct.
Or sorry, Jacob Broaddus shall have no contact with the party's minor child. Parens. It is noted that Mr. Broaddus was recently charged with DD second. Involving the defendant. Mr. Broaddus currently has 2 children with defendant, ages 1.5 and 8 months. Defendant was advised that should the parties suddenly have contact with Mr. Broaddus in the future, it may result in a modification of her custody and or parenting time. All right, and you guys have both talked about corporal punishment. I'm going to indicate that both parties are barred from using corporal punishment with the minor child, i.e. hitting, slapping, pulling, choking, etc. So guys, no corporal punishment. It is not supported by American Pediatric Association, Psychiatric Association, Medical Association. They used to say for young children a pat on the behind, they don't even support that. Neither one of you is to use any form of corporal punishment and must insist that family members and caregivers do not utilize corporal punishment with the minor child. I'm going to put 3. Based on defendant's testimony and promise at motion hearing that she will comply with the order of the court, and Mr. Jacob Broaddus will have no contact with the party's minor child. Her parenting time shall be reinitiated, effective Sunday, October 23rd, 2023. What's that? I'm sorry. October 8th. I'm sorry. What did I say? October 8th. Pursuant to the current order of the court. So ma'am, I'm only returning your parenting time based on, and this will give you guys each some time to file objections. He can file an emergency motion to stop my order if he feels that's appropriate, but that's why I gave till Sunday to do this.
Your Honor, can we have the exchange at the police department?
Sure. Do you guys want to do exchanges at the police department? What police department? Shelby Township?
Sterling Heights.
Or I'm sorry, Sterling Heights. Are both parties able to get the child at 6 p.m.? We'll put parenting time exchanges at 6 p.m. Is everyone able to do that?
Yes.
Your Honor, what do I do with my PPO?
Then it should definitely be at the police station.
What does your PPO say?
It says that I could not be she cannot be in contact with me, around me, or my son.
When did you get that PPO? When was it served on her?
It was on her. We got the PPO through Judge Rancilio on August 29th.
Ma'am, have you been served with a PPO? Counsel, are you aware of that?
She served. There's objections hearing scheduled for October 16th, but I haven't seen the PPO. I don't know if it extends to the minor child.
Okay, so I'm going to indicate that the next parenting time exchanges shall occur at the Sterling Heights Police Department. The court notes that there is currently a PPO entered between the parties with an objection hearing. And when is that objection hearing, counsel?
The 16th.
Scheduled for October 16, 2023. I'm going to note parenting time exchanges are for the peaceful exchange of the minor child. And neither party shall speak about litigation or approach each other during parenting time exchanges. So guys, your child can be exchanged. If you guys want to use a third party, such as you guys, your mom That might help as well if you want to use your mom. I'm going to put parties that may use the paternal grandmother to facilitate the exchange.
Your Honor,
if they
I
so
do not want to
choose.
be around her grandmother. His grandmother.
No, your mom. Yours. You're the paternal grandmother. Your mom. Your
Correct.
mom,
Yeah,
who
because
she
her
likes.
mother is currently under investigation by the FBI.
I said your mom. I said your mom, not her mom. Yours.
Okay.
She likes your mom. If your mom wants to help out with the exchange, your mom can help out. Your mom can do it. Okay. All right, guys. So I'm based on her testimony and promise he will not be around. I believe that he's been around in the past. I'm going to take her word based on what I've said that she's not going to let him around. She can talk to him on the phone about his children, but she cannot make your son talk to him, have any contact with him whatsoever. She's promising that, so I'm going to reinitiate the parenting time. If you don't like my rock, you have 21 days to object, or your attorney can try to file an ex parte order, get you in there expedited to see if Judge Dennings will get you in quicker, should she not want parenting time reinstated. But that is my recommendation based on the testimony before the court. All right? All right, guys.
I'm so,
Go ahead.
I understand time is, I have been denied parenting time in July, strictly on the basis that my mother had interaction with Mayhart. Am I going to be denied? I want to know if, and I'm speaking, making it known, because if his dad, what happens when his dad denies me parenting time because my son is around my family?
Your Honor, her family abused my son, and she knows that.
Okay, you can, well, then make a parenting time complaint to the parenting time department and ask for a show cause hearing if you're not allowed your child again in the future. So guys, file objections, get